What are Whoopie Slings? How do you make them and how do you use them? Check it out on this episode of How Not to Highlight. Hi, I'm Ryan Jinks and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to show you how to make whoopies. Disclaimer, this is for entertainment purposes only. Don't go make whoopies that your life is going to depend on after watching a guy in his kitchen show you how to do it. Today I'm going to make a whoopie out of 1/4 inch or 6mm Amsteel 78. This whoopie will break at about 30 kilonewtons or almost 7,000 pounds. I use 12.5 feet of Amsteel to make my whoopies, and they come out to a minimum of 20 inches long, all the way out, if you stretch it to the tail, to almost 6 feet long. There are 3 parts to a whoopie: the bromo splice, the loop, and the end of the tail. Let's start with our bromo splice. It starts with a tail and a loop. This 1/4 inch Sumla fit has a specific length to help you know how long to splice certain things. Our loop is going to be 1 fid long. It's 5 1/4 inches and 2 fids long for our tail. So I'm going to mark where I want to splice my tail and my loop. So I'm going to take my tail, I'm going to put it through my second line until my first line gets to it and creates an eye. So now I take my fid and go through the exact middle of the Amsteel. Be sure to have 6 strands on both sides or your eye is not going to be full strength. Then take the tail and slip it in the back end, which has a little hook that holds it in place. Massage it through. And now you have your eye. Pull the first line and the second line together. Now the bromo locking splice needs to be spliced twice before you bury the tail. You go about 2 diameters down and you're going to put the tail through this tail. Now that I've run my long tail inside of the short tail, now I just cinch it up and my eye cannot open. Now we're going to bury this tail down the center. You poke it through, but not all the way through. Stay in the center, scrunch it up, and before the end goes in there, you put the tail on there. There's a little hook that it gets stuck on. Make sure you massage it on there well so it doesn't fall off. I find turning it will help it go down more. Then you milk it over it, stay in the middle, milk it over it, stay in the middle, and you continue all the way down until it's buried. Once it's buried, you come out the end, pull out your tail, and then it's ready to taper. In order to taper, I'm going to go back about 1 inch or 2, and I'm going to unravel the tails. And I'm going to cut them progressively up the rope so it'll taper nicely. Now that I've cut progressively up the rope, I can milk, starting at the top, milk it all the way down the rope. So now I have a locked bromo splice that won't open, a buried tail, and a tapered end. Now to create our loop, we're going to put our Amsteel inside of itself 2 fids and come out of the Amsteel before it hits our taper. So I'm going to measure 2 fids from where I feel the end of my taper, and that is where I'm going to enter my tail. I'm going to insert my fid at that mark and go down the center of the Amsteel, putting my other tail on my fid before inserting. Stay in the center, twist, push, milk over it, and be sure to come out before you hit the taper that you put in earlier. And pull the tail all the way through, creating your whoopie. Now that we have our Brummel splice and our loop, all we have to do now is create a stop on the end of this so it can't accidentally become undone when you're working with your Whoopie Slings. What we do is we bury the end inside of itself like we're creating an eye, yet we pull it all the way through. So you push it all the way down the center here, milk it over it, milk it. Now the trick is to keep going. Go all the way to the end to where it creates no eye. Come out the end and pull out your tail. Now because this isn't going to hold any weight, I'm just going to cut my end at an angle instead of doing a real taper. Pull off the extra tape, and I'm going to milk it, but not so much that I get an eye. And now we have a stopper. If you want to see Samson's instructions for making a Whoopie Sling, I've included the link in the description below. So now you know how to make Whoopies. They're a great tool to add redundancy to your Highline anchor. But since there has not been thorough testing with Whoopie Slings in actual Highline scenarios, therefore you shouldn't Highline. Hi, I'm Ryan Jenks, and this was another episode of the How Not to Highline series. It's a guide for slackers interested in transitioning into highlining. We are not here to spoon feed the right rigging techniques. Instead, we are here to empower slackers to critically analyze any system they're going to use. Risk awareness can keep people alive. Please don't rig your first highline without an expert. We have too many generous and wonderful people in our highlining community to go risk your life after watching a YouTube tutorial. Let's keep this sport safe. And remember, since no system is perfect, therefore, you shouldn't highline. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.